Most processing objects in London Architect have default control panels, and we can access those panels by double-clicking on the objects. In many cases, these default control panels are all we need. In other cases, we might want a control panel that only has some of these controls on it. We might want a control panel that has these controls plus controls from another processing object. Or we might just want a control panel that looks differently than this one does. In all those cases, a custom control panel is the answer. We can create a custom control panel by clicking on the Panel menu and selecting New Custom Control Panel. This creates a blank custom control panel ready for us to place control objects. We can also create a custom control panel by taking a default control panel, going to the Panel menu, and selecting Convert Default to Custom. The blue Default Control Panel tab has now turned white and has a new name. Default panels have blue tabs, custom panels have white tabs. This custom panel can now be modified by removing things we don't need, adding other things, rearranging it, customizing it to make it look the way we need. If we start with a blank control panel, we can go back to our default control panel, click on a control to grab it, drag it up onto the tab, which will switch us to the custom control panel, and then drop that control on our custom control panel. If I click on one control, shift click on another, I can then drag both of them at one time onto the custom control panel. I can also click and drag to select multiple objects, grab them, drag them up, drop them on my custom control panel. I can even select controls from multiple processing objects and place them all on the same custom control panel. Using these methods, I can collect all of the various controls I need and place them together on one control panel. I can also right-click, select New, and select an empty control off the list to place onto the control panel. I'm going to select the Vector button control, which is out of view on your screen. There it is. I'll make a copy of that. These two buttons each show the under construction symbol in the bottom corner. If I click on this Mute button and then go look under Properties, the controlled parameter for this button is DSP1 Mix Output Mute Left. That's what's being controlled when I use this control object. These two vector buttons I just placed don't have a controlled parameter assigned to them. They're empty buttons that don't do anything right now. To assign a control to those buttons, I can go back to the original default control panel. Let's grab the solo button for channel 7, drag it up. If I were to release this button right now, I would copy that control onto this panel. If instead, while dragging it up, I get the green outline around the control and release the mouse, I've now assigned that state variable to this button. I can also go to the design tree and find that state variable directly to drag it onto that button. If I grab the polarity control for channel 7, I can assign it to that button. This allows me to quickly and easily assign controls onto the custom control panel in forms that are different from the form they have on the default control panel. When dragging state variables off the design tree, or when dragging state variables from another control panel, be very careful not to accidentally release the mouse while over an existing control. If I release right now, I just assigned channel 7 gain to this master fader. If I move this fader, you'll see the edit box is not changing because I've remapped this control to the state variable for channel 7's gain. Now if I hit Control Z to undo that change, I'm back to controlling the master fader. Not a big deal. However, if I had been assigning a mute when that happened, accidentally dropped it, Control Z to fix it, I now have the master fader state variable assigned back to this fader, but there's no way to automatically recover my scale on each side of the fader. Undo won't fix that. I have to go back and manually put that scale back in. It's not a big deal, but it's a little bit annoying. So be careful when dragging not to release the state variable too soon or in the wrong location. I can also look in the design tree to find my custom control panels. Custom Control Panel 2 is the panel that I converted from a default panel earlier. I closed it with the close button, but that doesn't remove it from the design file. It's still in the design file. If I don't need it anymore and want to delete it, I have to go to Panel, Delete Control Panel. For panels that I do want to keep, I can also go to the panel menu and rename them to give them useful names.